Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. You know, sometimes you hear a word thrown around and you kind of think you know what it means, but then you realize you're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, today we're diving deep into one of those concepts, karma.
It's one of those things everyone thinks they understand. Like, what goes around comes around. Simple, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we're going way beyond that today.
Oh, yeah, much deeper.
We're going to untangle all the threads, all the nuances of karma.
Absolutely.
And to guide us on this journey, we have an incredible article from the Spiritual Sikh, fresh off the digital press, March 15th, 2025.
I love their tagline, "Goody sois know thyself." Really sets the tone.
It does. And this deep dive into karma, well, it's all about self-knowledge, right? It's about understanding how our actions shape our reality and who we become.
It is. It's not just about some cosmic scorecard. This article presents karma as this fundamental principle, like woven into the very fabric of existence.
Okay, so let's rewind. Where does this idea even come from?
Well, the article takes us all the way back to ancient India. The word karma itself comes from the Sanskrit root kri, meaning to do or to make.
Makes sense. Action, doing.
Right, and it shows up as the central idea in all the Dharmic traditions. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism.
Right. Different flavors, but that core concept of karma runs through them all.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting?
What's that?
How the understanding of karma evolved over time. Like, way back in the Vedic period, around 1500 BCE, it was mainly about ritual action.
Rituals, like what?
So they believed that performing these specific sacrifices and ceremonies would basically keep the universe in balance.
Keep things running smoothly.
Exactly. They called this cosmic order Shur. It was all about maintaining harmony.
So like making sure the seasons change properly and all that.
Yeah, think of it like that. And the Rig Veda, one of their oldest texts, it has all these hymns about how doing these rituals would get you good vibes from the divine, like a proto-karma concept.
Fascinating. So it was all about outward actions, these specific rituals to keep everything in check.
Precisely. But then, fast forward a few centuries to the Upanishads.
Okay, what changed?
Big shift. Karma wasn't just about rituals anymore. It expanded to include all actions and, importantly, their moral implications.
So not just doing the right rituals, but also being a good person, doing the right thing.
Exactly. There's this powerful line in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad that the article quotes. According as one acts, according as one conducts himself, so does he become. The doer of good becomes good. The doer of evil becomes evil.
Wow, so powerful. It's not just about pleasing the gods anymore. It's about shaping your own being.
Exactly. It's about that internal shift, that taking responsibility for your actions and their consequences.
Okay, so we've got karma evolving from outward rituals to morally charged actions. And then, of course, along comes the Buddha.
And he brings in this crucial emphasis on intention, on satana in Sanskrit.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the Buddha's saying it's not just about the act itself, but the intention behind it. Like, he has this famous quote, "It is intention, monks, that I call karma."
So two people could do the same thing, but with different intentions, and it would have totally different karmic effects.
Precisely. Like, imagine accidentally stepping on an ant versus intentionally squishing it.
Oh, huge difference. One's an accident, the other's, well, mean.
And the karmic weight is different because the intention is different. It's about that inner landscape, the state of mind behind the action.
That adds a whole other layer of complexity. Okay, so we've got the origins, the evolution of karma. Now, how does this whole thing actually work? Is it like some cosmic judgment system?
The article is really clear on this. It's not divine judgment. It's more like a natural law, like gravity, but for the moral realm.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Explain.
So imagine gravity. It's not like there's some being up there deciding what falls and what doesn't. It's a fundamental force, right?
Built into how the universe works.
Exactly. And karma is like that. It's this principle of cause and effect built into the fabric of reality. It's a cosmic accounting system.
So every action leaves a mark, creates a ripple.
Yes. Every word you speak, every thought you think, it all leaves an imprint. These imprints, they're called samskaras in the ancient texts.
Samskaras.
Oh.
Like subtle impressions on our consciousness.
Yes. They create these tendencies, these patterns that shape our future experiences. The article uses this great analogy with a pianist.
Oh, tell me about that.
So imagine a pianist practicing scales, right? They get better not because someone's rewarding them, but because those repeated actions strengthen the neural pathways in their brain.
Makes sense. Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. And it's the same with karma. If you're constantly acting with kindness and compassion, it's not because some deity is favoring you, but because you're literally rewiring your brain, shaping your character, and that creates positive ripples in your life.
So it's like that saying, what is it, neurons that fire together wire together.
Exactly that. Modern neuroscience is actually backing up this ancient wisdom. Our actions are literally shaping our brains, and our brains shape our reality.
Mind-blowing. Okay, so we've got the origins, the mechanism. Now, the article talks about different dimensions of karma.
Right. It breaks it down into 4 main categories: immediate karma, delayed karma, collective karma, and non-linear karma.
Okay, let's take these one by one. What's immediate karma?
So that's the what goes around comes around kind of karma that we often think of. The Sanskrit term for it is daya janma vedanya, which means the results are experienced in this very lifetime.
So the consequences are pretty much immediate.
Yeah, think of it like the phala, the fruit of your action ripening quickly. Like if you're honest with people, you build trust, but if you're deceptive, you damage relationships. It's pretty straightforward cause and effect.
That makes sense. What about delayed karma?
That one's a bit more complex. It's called apavadanya, and the consequences might not show up until future lives.
Future lives. This is where the reincarnation connection comes in strong.
Right. It connects to the idea of sanchita karma, like this reservoir of karmic imprints from all your past actions that are waiting to manifest.
So some of our innate talent or fears we have from birth could be linked to actions from past lives.
It's possible, yeah. It's like we're carrying this karmic baggage across lifetimes, and it influences our experiences.
Oh, okay. So immediate karma, delayed karma. What about collective karma?
Collective karma is huge, especially in our interconnected world. It's called samashti karma, and it's all about the shared consequences of group actions.
Like if a whole society is doing something harmful, everyone suffers the consequences.
Exactly. Think of climate change, for example. It's not one person's fault, but we're all experiencing the effects.
Or economic systems that create huge inequalities.
Yes. Systems, institutions, they all generate collective karma, and it impacts everyone involved. The article even mentions the Mahabharata, this ancient epic where a kingdom's fate is determined by the collective choices of its people.
It's a powerful reminder that our actions have ripple effects far beyond our individual lives.
And then there's nonlinear karma, which throws a wrench into our linear way of thinking.
Nonlinear? How so?
So sometimes the effects of our actions don't play out in a predictable, straightforward way. Like you do something good and you expect good things to happen, but it doesn't always work like that.
Life throws curveballs.
Exactly. The Yoga Vasistha, another ancient text, it says, "As is the feeling, so is the result, but often in mysterious ways not immediately discernible."
It's a reminder that the universe is a complex system, and we can't always predict how things will play out.
Right. It's about letting go of the need to control everything and trusting that the consequences will unfold in their own time and way.
So we've got these different dimensions of karma, all intertwined. But there's one thing that seems to stand out as crucial: intention.
Absolutely. The article really hammers home this point. Intention is key. You can do the same action, but with different motivations, and the karmic impact is totally different.
Give me an example.
Sure, imagine 2 people donating to charity. One's doing it out of genuine compassion, wanting to help. The other's doing it for social recognition, to look good.
Same action, but different motives.
Exactly. And the article argues that the inner motivation, the quality of the heart, that's what really matters in the karmic equation. It even mentions this concept from the Bhagavad Gita, nishkama karma.
Nishkama karma, what's that all about?
It means selfless action. Acting without attachment to the results. It's like you do your duty, you act with integrity, but you don't get caught up in what you'll get out of it.
That's a tough one. We're all so focused on outcomes.
It is tough, but it's a powerful practice. And it connects to this beautiful quote from the Chandogya Upanishad. "As is one's desire, so is one's will. As is one's will, so is one's deed. As is one's deed, so is one's destiny."
Our desires shape our actions, and our actions shape our destiny. It all comes full circle.
Exactly. And it reminds me of the Buddhist 4 great efforts.
Refresh my memory on those.
So it's about actively cultivating positive mental states and letting go of negative ones. It's recognizing that our inner world has a direct impact on our actions and therefore on our karma.
So karma is not just about what we do externally, it's also about what we cultivate internally.
Precisely. It's about the whole package, our thoughts, emotions, and actions.
And this internal aspect, it leads us right into the discussion of karma and reincarnation.
Right. In many Eastern traditions, these two concepts are inseparable. Reincarnation, or samsara, is this cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and karma is the driving force behind it.
So our actions in this life determine the kind of life we'll have in the next.
It's not that simplistic. It's not about reward or punishment, but rather about continuity of consciousness. The Katha Upanishad uses this great metaphor of a caterpillar moving from one blade of grass to another.
So our consciousness keeps going, taking on new forms.
Exactly. And the Tibetan text, The Precious Garland, it compares it to a mirror reflecting our face. It's saying that the circumstances of our next life will reflect the quality of our actions and intentions in this one.
So it's not arbitrary.
No.
It's a direct reflection of our karmic baggage.
Precisely. And texts like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they go into detail about how these karmic imprints guide us through the transition between death and rebirth.
It's a very different perspective on life and death compared to the linear view in the West.
It is. It's a more cyclical view, recognizing that this life is just one chapter in a much larger story. There's this poignant quote from Shanadeva that speaks to this. "For countless births have I been separated from my loved ones and united with my enemies. The tears I have shed are more than the waters of the four great oceans."
It's a reminder of the vastness of our journey.
Mm.
Okay, so if karma keeps us bound to this cycle of rebirth, is there a way to break free?
Yes. All the traditions that talk about karma also offer paths to liberation, to transcend the cycle of samsara.
What are some of those paths?
Well, in Hinduism, it's called moksha, and it's about realizing the true nature of the self, the Atman, and its unity with the absolute Brahman.
It's like dissolving the illusion of separation, recognizing our interconnectedness with everything.
Exactly. The Mundaka Upanishad describes this as, when the seer sees the golden-colored creator, the Lord, the Spirit, whose source is Brahman, then, being a knower, shaking off good and evil, stainless, he attains supreme equality with the self.
Beautiful. What about Buddhism?
In Buddhism, liberation is called nirvana, and it's achieved through the Noble Eightfold Path.
Right, the paths of ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom.
Exactly. It's about ending craving, extinguishing the ego self, and realizing true freedom. The Dhammapada describes it as those who are free from worldly desires and possessions, who are full of light within, who have trained their mind and reached the state of absolute freedom, their track, like that of birds in the air, cannot be traced.
It's about letting go of attachments, of the things that bind us to this cycle of suffering.
Precisely. And Jainism also offers a path to liberation, emphasizing nonviolence, or ahimsa, and asceticism to purify the soul.
So they're all pointing towards this idea of transcending the limitations of the ego, recognizing our true nature.
Yes. And it's not about accumulating good karma to earn your way out. It's about going beyond that whole framework of reward and punishment, realizing that true freedom lies in transcending the ego's grip.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but the article also dedicates a good chunk to modern misconceptions about karma.
Yeah, there are a lot of misunderstandings floating around out there.
Like what?
Well, one of the big ones is this idea of karma as cosmic justice. Like it's this external force that's punishing you for doing bad things and rewarding you for doing good things.
Yeah, like karma's this big judge up in the sky keeping score.
Exactly. But that's not the traditional understanding at all. The article is very clear that karma is not divine punishment, it's not retribution, it's not a justification for inaction, and it's definitely not deterministic.
So it's not about fate or some predetermined plan.
Nope. It's about understanding that our actions have consequences, and those consequences shape who we become and the reality we experience. It's about taking responsibility for our choices.
And what about instant karma? Is that a real thing?
That's another misconception. While some karmic effects can be immediate, the traditional understanding is that it can take time, even lifetimes, for the consequences to unfold.
So patience is key.
Definitely. And the article emphasizes that karma is not about gaming the system. It's not about doing good deeds to get rewards. It's about cultivating inner qualities like compassion, wisdom, and integrity.
It's about becoming a better person, not just trying to manipulate outcomes.
Exactly. And that brings us to the practical side of things. How can we live with greater karmic awareness in our everyday lives?
Right, let's get practical.
The article outlines a few key areas of awareness to focus on. First, there's temporal awareness.
Temporal awareness, what's that about?
It's about recognizing that the consequences of our actions can unfold over time. It's like planting a seed. It takes time for it to sprout and bear fruit.
So patience and a long-term perspective are important.
Absolutely. It's a good antidote to our culture of instant gratification.
Then there's intentional awareness.
Yes. This is all about paying attention to our motivations. Why are we doing what we're doing? The Buddhist practice of mindfulness of intention is really helpful here.
It's like constantly checking in with ourselves, asking, what's my true intention here?
Exactly. It brings a whole new level of consciousness to our actions.
The article also mentions systemic awareness.
Right. That's about seeing how our actions are interconnected with larger systems and patterns. It's recognizing that we're all part of a web of cause and effect, and our individual choices contribute to the collective karma.
It's about understanding that we're not isolated individuals. We're all interconnected.
Exactly. And finally, there's perceptual awareness.
What's that about?
It's recognizing that our past karmic imprints can shape how we perceive the world. It's like we're wearing these tinted glasses that distort our view.
So our past actions can literally limit our ability to see things clearly.
Yes. And the article uses the example of a business executive who's so focused on profit that they become blind to ethical considerations.
It's a powerful reminder to be mindful of the filters we're creating through our actions.
And to counteract these filters, the article suggests practices like self-reflection, karmic auditing, mindfulness, forgiveness, and selfless service.
Okay, so we've got these practical tools, but there's also this tricky question of acceptance and effort. How do we accept the consequences of our past actions while still striving to create a better future?
It's a subtle dance. Acceptance in this context doesn't mean resignation. It means recognizing the reality of the present moment, including the consequences of our past actions.
This is like acknowledging where we are without getting stuck there.
Exactly. The article uses the analogy of a gardener facing a drought. They accept the reality of the dry conditions, but they still take action to water their plants or choose drought-resistant varieties.
Acceptance becomes the foundation for wise action.
Precisely. And the Bhagavad Gita talks about our right to action, but not to the fruits of our actions. It's about doing our best without being attached to specific outcomes.
Letting go of that need to control everything.
Right. Practices like the Tibetan Tonglen and the Zen principle of accepting what is all point towards this balance of acceptance and effort.
And then there's the collective dimension of karma, which feels incredibly relevant in our current world.
Absolutely. Collective karma is about understanding that groups, communities, and societies all generate shared consequences.
Like the climate crisis, which is a result of collective actions over generations.
Exactly. Economic systems, cultural institutions, they all create collective karma. The article even mentions the Mahabharata, where a kingdom's fate is determined by the collective choices of its people.
So it's not just about individual responsibility, it's about collective responsibility.
Right. It's about acknowledging historical injustices, taking responsibility for our role in harmful systems, and working to create more just and sustainable ways of being.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Exactly. And finally, the article talks about karma as a path of awakening, of self-discovery.
Explain that one.
So it's about seeing the interconnectedness of everything, realizing that our actions shape not just our own lives, but the world around us. It's about understanding that the self is not this fixed, separate entity, but a fluid, interconnected part of a larger whole.
It's about waking up to our true nature and our interconnectedness with everything.
Exactly. And there's this beautiful quote from Shantideva that captures this. All the suffering in the world comes from seeking pleasure for oneself. All the happiness in the world comes from seeking the good of others.
It's about shifting from a self-centered perspective to a more compassionate, other-centered one.
Precisely. And practices like Hindu karma yoga, where you perform actions as a form of spiritual practice, they all point towards this path of awakening through mindful action.
It's fascinating how this ancient wisdom aligns with modern science in many ways.
It is. The article mentions fields like neuroscience, systems theory, epigenetics, even quantum physics. While they don't prove karma in the traditional sense, they offer frameworks that resonate with its core principles.
Like neurons that fire together wire together, aligning with the idea of karmic habits.
Exactly. It's like different disciplines are converging on similar truths about the interconnectedness of everything.
And the article concludes by bringing karma into our modern context, talking about its implications for our ethical choices, our digital footprint, our relationship with the environment, our finances, even our relationships with each other.
Right. It's about recognizing that karma isn't just some abstract concept. It's alive and well in every aspect of our lives.
It's about bringing this ancient wisdom to bear on the challenges and opportunities of our modern world.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that karma isn't fixed. It's constantly evolving. The article talks about modern interpretations like psychological karma, secular dharma, integral karma, and ecological karma.
It's a concept that continues to adapt and provide insights for us.
Absolutely. And the core message remains constant. Actions matter, consequences follow, and understanding this leads to greater wisdom and freedom.
So to wrap up our deep dive into this insightful article from the Spiritual Sikh, it's clear that karma is far more than just what goes around comes around.
It's so much deeper than that.
It's a profound principle that highlights our interconnectedness, the power of intention, and the importance of taking responsibility for our actions. It invites us to cultivate greater awareness, compassion, and wisdom in our lives.
It's a journey of self-discovery and a path to awakening.
It is. And as you go about your day, I invite you to consider this. What small, intentional shift in your actions might create ripples of positive change in your life and in the world around you?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is. And if you're eager to delve deeper into this topic, the Spiritual Sikh has a wealth of resources to support your exploration. Remember, understanding karma is an ongoing journey, a lifelong practice of mindful engagement with the intricate web of life we're all a part of.
Beautifully said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.